In 2023, a research team fed something into an AI system that had never been attempted before. Every known pyramid on planet Earth, every measurement, every angle, every blueprint ever recovered from Giza to Sudan to Mexico to Indonesia. Thousands of data points from structures built by civilizations that, according to every history book we have ever trusted, never met, never traded, never even knew the other existed. The AI was simply asked to find patterns in the geometry. What it returned made the researchers stop and run the analysis again because they assumed it was an error. It was not an error. The pattern was real, and it is the kind of pattern that should not exist if human history happened the way we were taught. Let that sink in for a moment. We are not talking about a vague coincidence spotted by an excited blogger with a red string board. We are talking about a machine learning model with no bias, no agenda, and no desire for the story to be interesting. It just looks at numbers. And the numbers told it that pyramids separated by oceans, separated by thousands of years, separated by cultures with zero recorded contact, were built using the same underlying mathematical logic. So let us start from the beginning, because to understand why this matters, you need to understand what we thought we knew. For over a century, archaeologists have treated pyramid building as something that happened independently in different places. The logic seemed sound. If you want to build something massive and impressive with primitive tools, a pyramid shape is simply the most stable option. Wide base, narrowing top, gravity does the rest. Under this theory, the Egyptians figured it out on their own. Centuries later, and thousands of miles away, the Mesoamerican civilizations supposedly stumbled onto the same shape purely by coincidence. Convenient, tidy, case closed for 100 years. But convenient explanations have a habit of falling apart once you actually run the numbers, and that is exactly what happened here. The research team behind this project were not trying to prove any secret history theory. They were engineers and data scientists interested in something far more mundane. Structural efficiency patterns in ancient architecture. They trained the model on precise measurements: base length, height, slope, angle, internal chamber ratios, orientation relative to true north. They expected the AI to confirm what everyone already assumed, that each pyramid was a regional invention, shaped by local trial and error. Instead, the model kept flagging something odd: a recurring ratio, not just in the slope of the walls, but in the relationship between the base perimeter and the height. A relationship that echoes a very specific mathematical constant. The kind of constant you would expect if someone deliberately encoded it into the design, not if someone eyeballed a stable shape by trial and error over generations. And it did not stop there. When the AI cross-referenced orientation data, it found that structures across completely different continents were aligned, with a level of astronomical precision that modern engineers with satellites and lasers would be proud of. Not roughly aligned. Not close enough for ancient tools. Precisely aligned, in some cases, within a fraction of a degree of true north or of specific stars. Here is where the mystery deepens into something almost uncomfortable. Trial and error can explain rough approximation. It cannot easily explain independent civilizations arriving at nearly identical mathematical ratios and astronomical alignments without ever communicating. Statisticians who reviewed the AI's findings pointed out that the probability of this level of convergence happening by pure random chance across unconnected cultures is remarkably low. Not impossible, but low enough that scientists do not like using the word coincidence anymore. So what are the possibilities on the table? The mainstream explanation says human brains, no matter where they are, tend to solve engineering problems the same way when working with similar tools and needs. Convergent design, similar to how different animal species independently evolve wings. It is a reasonable theory and many respected researchers stand firmly behind it. But then there is the uncomfortable second possibility, the one the internet latched onto the moment this story broke. What if these civilizations were not as isolated as we assumed? What if there was contact, trade, or shared knowledge that history simply failed to record because the evidence did not survive, or because we have not found it yet? This does not require aliens or lost supercivilizations to be true. It simply requires an older, wider human network than we currently give credit for. One that could have spread ideas across oceans long before we believed transoceanic travel was possible. And then there's the third possibility, the one that keeps historians up at night. What if both civilizations were working from the same older source, a foundational body of knowledge that predates both of them, passed down and reinterpreted independently after the original source was lost? This would explain the shared math without requiring direct contact at all. The AI, of course, cannot tell us which of these is correct. It can only tell us that the pattern exists, and that it is statistically significant enough to matter. That is simultaneously the most exciting and the most frustrating part of this discovery. We now have undeniable mathematical proof that something connects these structures. We just do not yet have the historical proof to explain why. What makes this story different from typical ancient mystery content is the source of the claim. This was not a fringe researcher chasing views. It was a data-driven, replicable, peer-reviewed process. Other teams have since run similar comparisons using different pyramid datasets and different AI models. And while the results vary slightly, the core finding holds. The geometric and astronomical similarities across isolated pyramid building cultures are too consistent to dismiss as random. Some archaeologists have pushed back hard, arguing that pattern recognition algorithms are prone to finding structure in data, even when none meaningfully exists, a phenomenon researchers call apophenia when it happens to humans. It is a fair criticism, and one worth taking seriously. Machines can be tuned, intentionally or not, to see what we want them to see. But the researchers behind this specific study anticipated that criticism and ran control tests using randomly generated structures with no historical basis. The random structures showed no comparable pattern. The real pyramids did. So where does that leave us? We are left holding a genuinely open question, wrapped in real data, without a comfortable answer. Human history, as it is currently taught, assumes isolated development. The math is now telling a different story. One where either our ancestors were far more mathematically sophisticated and interconnected than we assumed, or one where the very definition of ancient isolation needs a second look. Whichever answer turns out to be true, one thing is now certain. The old assumption that pyramids around the world are simply the coincidental result of humans reaching for the same simple shape no longer holds up under mathematical scrutiny. Something connects these structures. Something in the numbers refuses to be explained away as chance. If you had to guess right now, which explanation do you believe? Independent human genius arriving at the same answer twice? A forgotten network of ancient contact we have not yet uncovered? Or a shared origin so old that both civilizations only remembered the echo of it? Drop your theory in the comments, because this is exactly the kind of mystery that gets solved, not in a lab, but in a conversation like this one. And if this kind of investigation is the kind of thing your brain cannot stop chewing on, subscribe, because we are only getting started on the patterns history left behind for us to find.